Hello and welcome to Savannah Alalia TV, where you learn to listen to your intuition and create a life that you truly love. There are no gurus here because you are your own guru. I am simply here to remind you to pay attention to that guru inside of yourself. Unsure if you have a guru inside of yourself? Trust me, you do, because we all do. And when you learn to listen, that is when the magic happens. I love to read, and one of my favourite books is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. In it, Mark explains 3 categories people fall into: givers, takers, and matchers. You're probably wondering what those are, so here's a quick rundown. Givers pour forth and give whatever is needed, sometimes too much. Takers take whatever they need to, but also keep taking past the point of where they really should. Matchers will match whatever they experience. They will give to a giver and they will ask for what they need from a taker. They will keep score and act accordingly to what they see as fair. So here's the big question. Are the people around you givers, takers, or matchers? And which one are you? Let's get into these in a bit more detail, starting with what is a taker. Now, takers are in no way the enemy, but their approach to life could be disruptive at best and destructive at worst. Often they're unaware of the impact that they're having, or sometimes, sadly, they simply lack care for others. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I went out to eat with a group of very wealthy friends. We agreed to split the check. However, as I was the last to pay, I realised no one had included anything extra to tip the server. So it fell to me to tip for the entire table, which I did gladly, as I used to wait tables myself and I know how difficult it can be. Anyone who's worked in hospitality will agree with me, I'm sure. When I pointed this out to the rest of the party, they merely laughed and said they'd remember next time. But next time, when we went out to dinner again, the exact same thing happened. Now, whether they intentionally avoided tipping or simply forgot again, it showed their lack of consideration for others. Like they had no awareness of how their behaviour affected the people around them. In this example, these takers were disruptive, yet the situation was manageable. However, in some situations, takers can be destructive and slowly drain everything from you. Learn to steward your energy when you're around takers. And by steward, I mean be aware of how or where your energy is going and conscious of what's happening around you. Also, avoid having takers in what I call your inner circle. Rather than cutting people out of your life, unless you feel drawn to do that, you can limit their accessibility to you. And you can always choose to do that in a kind way. So moving on, what is a giver? Back to my story. During that dinner, in that situation, I was the giver. My first thought was of the server and making sure that they got their tip. A giver makes sure that everyone has their needs met and they can be taken advantage of. So givers need to have either other givers or matchers in that inner circle that we spoke about. Otherwise, they end up being drained and very much undervalued, eventually becoming takers themselves. And finally, what is a matcher? Had anyone at that table been a matcher, they would have said, "Oh, you're adding a tip, let me split it with you." A matcher will give and take in equal measure, matching the energy exchange around them. Everything is equal, no one is taken for a ride basically with a matcher. A matcher helps a giver avoid giving too much and teaches them to receive and stops the taker in their greedy little tracks and helps them shift back into their natural giving state, which is possible. Now, there is a disclaimer to go with this. Some takers are narcissists or sociopaths and may struggle all of their lives to truly give, so it's best to avoid these. And some takers are actually givers who've overextended and need a little nudge to help them return to their natural ways. So keep your eyes open and practice discernment. I'm sure you're sitting there wondering, which one are you? Now, you might be a combination of all 3, but you will be predominantly one of them. So how do you tell? If you're a giver, your first thought is often of other people. You get excited to be able to share something with others. You love to give gifts. If you're a matcher, your first thought is always, how do I give back to this person? You have a strong sense of justice and fairness, and you love reciprocating. If you're a taker, your first thought is, what's in it for me? You often forget to say please and thank you, and people will often have to remind you. People also tend to fall out of your life. Obviously, I'm sure you're hoping to be a giver or a matcher, but if you feel like you are a giver and have become and started to behave like a taker, givers pride themselves on giving and can find it hard to receive. If you give too much, the victim mindset rears its nasty head and you can become a taker. The best approach in this instance is radical self-care to help restore balance in a responsible way. Set healthy boundaries and provide a balanced energy exchange. For example, pay attention to the people who help you rather than demanding it. I used to work with a self-appointed guru who refused to pay for treatments, whether it was massages or colonics. She felt that being allowed to be around her energy was a gift, and people should be grateful for the opportunity to work on her, even the ones giving her colonics. Now that's some sacred shit. She's an extreme example, and in the end it turns out she's a narcissistic sociopath, but I use her to illustrate a point. When you gift yourself self-care, avoid doing it at the expense of others and always pay someone who has to look at your butthole. I'm just saying. The world needs radical generosity, meaning the world needs more givers and matchers. Choosing to make sure your own needs are met is doing the world a service by ensuring you avoid becoming a taker. I'd love to hear in the comments about your experience with givers, takers, and matchers. Remember, trust your instincts, follow your intuition because the world needs your voice and the magic that it brings to us all. If you've enjoyed this video and feel it could really support someone you know to unlock and live their potential, then feel free to share it forward. I would love to know in the comments below this video or send me an email about the things that you decide to do. I look forward to reading your stories in the comments. Jump on my mailing list to stay reminded and connected with your intuition, plus some special little tips that I love to share in email. I look forward to chatting with you next time on Savannah Alalia TV. Take care and talk soon. And always pay someone who has to look at your butthole. I'm not sure I want to say that. I don't know. I mean, I could. Sorry.
Did say you wanted a sense of humour in there.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, well, let's just do it.